Hello everyone. So in this video I wanted to do something different, so I'll be using my easy template kit combined with all modules for Game Creator, and I'll be using the Sci-Fi base and PBR Military character spec, something like that. The links will be in the description. Other than that, I'll be using a couple of Unity, free Unity packages as well, and the goal here is to actually start creating converting that template into the start of a game. And I want to show how easy it can actually be and, make it look good at the same time. So before we do that, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. So for the purpose of this video, I'll be using this new scene I added in the last update. It includes, behaviors, modified stealth, etc. So, the new behaviors are so much better. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate this scene because I won't be using the exact same one. I'll modify it, so I want to keep the original. I'll remove the character melee because this is going to be a shooter, something which I generally don't really do, which is a shame. So I wanted to cover that a bit as well, show how easy it is to convert something like this into an actual an actual shooter. Now, a couple of things I do want to highlight when it comes to Unity packages I am using, and I'm not really sure if I'll use them all in this video, but it's worth pointing out. So when we go to Package Manager, we have a couple of ones I am using. So for example, let me see if this is always a bit slow for me, sorry about that. So let's see if I can just switch to what I'm using in project. There we go. So I'm using post-processing stack v2. This is useful if you are using built-in render pipeline or URP. If you are using HDRP, don't install this because HDRP has its own post-processing, which even works slightly easier, but is really similar in the way how you actually use it. You just have to take a couple of steps less. Next up, I'll be using, I have ProBuilder installed. I'm not really sure I'll be using this one. I always use ProGrids. I know this is still in preview, and if you can't find it yourself, make sure Show Preview Packages is turned on. It's honestly a really useful tool to snap things to a grid, and I don't know, it's hard to imagine without it. I'm not really sure why it's still in preview. Ever since I started using Unity, it's been there, always in preview, always working pretty much the same. So that's fine. We have terrain as well, so terrain tools. I'm not, it has to be installed, I think, terrain in general, so I'm not really sure this is the right one. So if you just look up terrain like this, yeah, it's called terrain tools. Okay, never mind. So yeah, make sure terrain is installed as well. It's always useful, and even a lot of other terrain assets still require you to use it anyway. So we definitely recommend having those things installed. Now, next up, we've created a duplicate here, and what I'm going to do is I'll be using the actual scene setup. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I would actually create an entire environment using these assets, this video would last a couple of days. That's just the truth. So, if you want to spend that time, go ahead. I'll be using Scene 2 standard in my case. For a couple of reasons. The biggest one being that this one is slightly smaller. Scene 1 is the first one is a bit bigger. It's a large scene. Yes, it loads a bit slow. I can see now. Or maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Oh no, okay, I was doing it wrong. Sorry about that. So this is the scene, and I'm not saying it's small. It's not, but at least it's not as big as the first one. So this is what we'll be using. I won't be using these post-processing effects though. I think it's a bit too much. It's really grainy and stuff. We'll be setting up our own post-processing, and I think it will be a bit more interesting. We'll also navmesh the area, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is, here we have our scene root, which has the light, camera, and the post-processing layer. I'm going to create a new empty here, And I'll drag that out, and the reason I'm doing that like this is because I do want it to be on top, and I'll basically be selecting everything else in our scene without the lights. And I'll drag it in here. Now the reason I'm doing that is because it will be easier to to move all of this and manage this if it's actually in a parent. So let's copy this over. We don't need to save the scene, it's not necessary. And let's go back to our own scene. You know what, let's actually rename this. So main game scene, not an original name, I'm aware, but that's okay. No, don't save. There we go, and we'll drag it in. Now before I start dragging things in, I'm temporarily going to disable user interfaces, makes it easier to manage in the editor. And for now I'll also turn off lighting and other effects. We'll make it all a bit faster in the editor, and honestly also just a lot easier to edit everything. So here we have our terrain and everything on it. Do want to say as well is that when it comes to this, if you rotate with the terrain included, most likely it won't go well. So moving it around, no problem whatsoever. Rotating, on the other hand, a bit trickier. Now if you turn off gizmos as well, it will actually be slightly easier to see what you're doing. And yes, I'm literally trying to make it all fit properly, which I'm not even sure is such a good idea, but that's okay. Let's actually move it back a bit. There we go. At least it's the same, it's pretty much the same height. So I just want the ground floor basically to match the gray layer in terms of height, or at least be close-ish. Cool. That seems about right. So here we have our scene, and we don't need the gray plane anymore. I'll disable it for now, and then afterwards I'll completely turn it off. Now if I turn on lighting and effects, you'll see it, I mean obviously won't look bad, but it looks completely different compared to what we saw before. A completely different look really, and that's because there's no post-processing going on whatsoever. So let's actually add that, and later we'll disable it, but I do want to get the look right and show you that it's actually not a bad idea to do it like this. So on the main camera, what we're going to add is a post-processing layer. So just type in post and do the layer. This layer will need a layer as well, and I have one post-pros. If you don't know how to add one, just go to layers, edit layer, and make sure you are in layers, not in tags, and just add one here. And that's pretty much all you have to do for this. So just add it and that's it. Then when we go back, we'll select that layer, and only on that layer will something appear. Now we have a couple of options here as well when it comes to anti-aliasing. So I'm going to keep fast. It's not the best one, it's not the prettiest one, but it does make it look a lot better without costing too much in terms of performance. If you want to do it right, use the other ones, but obviously it will require more performance. And generally speaking, this is actually really not that bad. I'm not really selling it the way I'm saying it, but it's actually pretty good because, just look at it. If you turn it off, you'll see the jaggies everywhere straight away, even close up. And if we turn it on, it all looks a lot smoother and a lot better. Now this is not post-processing per se, it's just the basics. So what we're going to do next is we'll actually add a new layer. So create empty. Let's rename this to post-processing. Make sure it's set to the correct layer, so post-pros. and then we're going to add the volume this time around. Now I want this to be a global volume, and if you don't want a global volume, basically what that means is you can add a collider and you can have localized post-processing effects. So for example, if you want it to be foggy inside of here, you can do that, and I'll show how to do that as well. So this one will be a global one. Let's do a new profile. Priority 0, so everything else should take priority over this. This is just a base effect. And one of the first tricks we're going to do is color grading. So color grading, well, as the name suggests, will change the colors. And I'm turning it all on even if I'm not using it. I won't be using this, that's a bit too much. And we're going to set it to ACES. Now this looks dark, I'm fully aware of that, it looks really dark. But basically ACES is what is used mostly for, well, the color type anyway, the tone mapping. It's what is used for a lot of movies, a lot of games, and basically it it's contrasty. Yes, it's a bit darker, and we'll do something about that as well. But it makes it look less bland, if that's the correct term. It just, kind of like HDR type effects on when you use your phone camera. It just looks better. But yeah, it can be dark as well, and we can fix that. So, a couple of things you could do is fix it like this, but obviously that will not definitely result in the best effects. We can do it on 0.2, which helps a tiny bit, not all that much, but at least it does something. Then next up what we're going to add is Ambient Occlusion. And let me try to find something that actually really shows this. So really trying to find a good spot to really show this effect. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with the most technical term for this. I'm not going to pretend I am. But basically, I mean, it makes it look better. I'll just go to be honest. So yeah, that's it's one of those tricks. I'm still not really sure this works with URP, by the way, but yeah, just look at this when we look at, for example, the shadowing. This doesn't become darker, so this little spot, let me try to zoom in a bit. So this little spot doesn't become darker, but this actually does become darker. So it just looks better. I don't really know what else to say. And we have a couple of options here. So we have scalable and we have multi-scale, and basically, one you can adjust fully and the other one is just a bit more precise. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can see the difference straight away. So it's not that everything just becomes darker, definitely not. So again, look here, colors remain the same, but everything under here becomes darker. So I just call it one of those effects that makes it prettier. I'm not going to be technical because I can't. So next up, I'm going to add a tiny bit of bloom, and bloom basically just it oversaturates, light. It's a horrible explanation. But yeah, it's basically makes things look. So yeah, just look at these materials. I think it's the easiest way to show it. So the impact of the actual light reflecting on it makes an impact. And if you turn it up real fast, it's basically, you won't see it a lot on. Obviously this is way too much, it's just to highlight what it really does. When you look at all of the light sources, that is the effect it has. Now, a couple of years ago, in the era of the PlayStation 3 360, this was severely overused and people in general did not really like it. So don't overdo it. Definitely don't overdo it. You can if you want to, if you like it, but at least add something to it. So you'll see without, they actually look like light sources now. So it definitely is worth it. Just, yeah, don't overdo it. generally speaking, people will not really enjoy it. Depth of field is something we can have a look at if everything basically looks good enough. Grain is an effect again that was used a lot during a certain time, a couple of years ago. If you've ever played Mass Effect, especially the first two, they had a lot of bloom and they had a lot of grain, and the grain, it basically creates this type of, I don't know, movie-ish effect. I'm not really sure. I personally don't like it. You can add it. I never liked it. It just looks weird. And then we have auto exposure as well, and I'm not really good with this, but basically it can compensate a tiny bit for what we were doing in terms of let's do -1. No, that's too much as well. So -0.2, 3, something. This is pretty hard to do. I'm not going to pretend I'm good at this, but basically it compensates a bit for you know, for the color grading we were doing, making everything really dark. So you know, without the color grading it becomes even blander, but with it, as you can see, if we leave everything off, the auto exposure actually really helps light things up a bit without changing the contrasty look. The bloom will affect the sky and all of the light sources, and ambient occlusion actually, well, this is actually a perfect shot. So here there should be shadows inside, there are no shadows inside, and this adds all of that localized shadow. I mean, it just looks so much better. So I know there's tons more you can do with this, and there's actually a lot of other assets that will help you a lot for, you know, doing this right, basically. Doing this even better. So it's definitely worth having a look at. I know this is something that usually only comes later, but I wanted to show that we can get the look right without too much effort. So let's actually start focusing on things that matter. So we have our player here, and I'm going to turn off all of this stuff. So we have our player, and I want a new character model. So for this one, I'll be using PBR Military pack, and honestly, this guy does, you know, the best work. I really enjoy his work. It's quality stuff, and it's not expensive, generally speaking. It's he does really quality work without it costing too much, which is really nice. So as you can see, we have tons of models here. Not all of them will be interesting for a main character, for example. I think this one is really cool for a main character. I like this one. This one, which might be a bit more stereotypical soldier. Couple of options, but most of them look more like enemies than, you know, the actual player. But honestly, it's really quality work. There's plenty of guns here as well, which we'll be using too. We'll be replacing all of those models. There's even like the small things like a first aid kit, melee weapon, torch, knife, and ammo box. It's, yeah, like I said, it's quality work. We can place a couple of these even as well in the scene. Makes it look better. So yeah, there's not a lot of potential when it comes to main player for me, so kind of have this option, maybe this one. But yeah, this one stands out a bit more. I think it looks cool. So we'll be using that one, so that's Soldier Marine. And we didn't have to go into the scene, by the way. I just wanted to show everything that's there. I prefer doing it like that. And there we go. Let's go back to our own scene. And I feel like it's time for me to restart my computer at some point as well. So there we go. So let's actually drag in a new model. So we'll go to the prefabs folder, by the way. Oh, that's weapons. So characters, yeah, there we go, characters, and then Soldier Marine prefab, gun and a knife, but we're just going to use the model for now. And yeah, that's a nice model. Not really sure if we have any customization options here. Not really. We can turn things off, but that's pretty much it. I actually prefer this without the cap. I'm not a big fan of the cap. Cool. But yeah, like I said, it's quality work. He does really, they're really good models. So that's it for the player. Now let's start doing the same with our enemy here. And I'll unpack this one as well. I'll make a copy out of it. Let's make sure we actually close all of this off. So we'll rename this to environment. There we go. So we have two ones. I'll just use the one for now. Let's actually turn them both on and just next to each other. We'll do another one. There we go. So 3 characters. I'll shoot the characters in this sense, so that's good. And let's pick a different prefab. So characters. Yeah, I have no clue what I want to do in terms of characters. So, oh, that's a drone. I'm not paying attention. PBR soldier. That's that one. And that really does look like an enemy character. So we have body 1. So yeah, it will be important not to select these because they're not in the T-pose. They already have a weapon. So this is just the one we will need to use. Or we can pick elite soldier. Sounds pretty cool as well. Oh, that looks. I mean, that looks a bit much, but that looks really cool actually. Okay, maybe they're a bit much. Maybe they're definitely a bit much. That's really cool. That looks more like mini bosses or just, you know, the stronger characters. This looks like a guy with another heavy guy. What is customized soldier? There we go. So we have the first one. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, we're gonna definitely pick one of these. They look a lot more basic. Oh, that's a weapon. So let's pick as a base enemy soldier. Let's just actually pick this one. I think this is a good one. So soldier 5. Yeah, well, should we pick him as well? These don't really look like, this looks like an enemy. 5. I'm not really sure what's going on with their heads. This one looks nice. So we'll pick 3, 5, and yeah, whatever. We'll pick this one as well. So there we go. 5. I think this should be the default. We can do something else with him. Just have him have a different gun or something. This one looks cool. And I think the last one was 3. There we go. We'll do something with them. They look cool enough. So yeah, we have our decent models. Now we do need to find something. So when it comes to cover, we need to make sure there's actual cover. These function as just normal cover. Nothing else, just based on height. These are just models. There, as you can see, there's nothing here. Now, because right now we don't have the combat module, will add that at some point, which I'll also support in a coming update. But we don't have cover shooting mechanics yet, as of yet, in Game Creator. So that's why I'm not going to actually use any cover mechanics, because, you know, if we can't shoot from it, it can actually just be annoying. So we'll keep it really basic with just normal obstacles. And we'll need to find normal obstacles. So what we can actually use as obstacles to hide behind, and we need something as well for the hide volumes for the stealth mechanic. So right now these volumes, they're just, you know, the mesh is, it's no collider, it's just a volume, but I do want us to be able to actually, you know, hide at some point. I know it's really open, which won't help a lot, but yeah, I do want something there so we can actually hide. So let's actually have a look at what we can use for that. So let's go to the base pack and start looking for something useful. So Sci-Fi base, prefabs. So we'll pick barrier solid actually. So let's pick that one up. And this is the one we'll be using. Now, I do want it to be a bit dynamic, and I know this seems incredibly solid, but for gameplay purposes, I would like this to be something that could actually be destroyed. I think that's fun. So yeah, let's do that. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. Let's unpack this one first, and we'll create a new prefab out of it. So let's call it solid breakable. I'm not sure if I'm spelling this wrong. Whatever, it's fine. So, you know, we have different LODs. I'll be using this LOD for the actual destroyable. So Dino. And you know what? I'm not even going to use LODs for this one. I'm actually going to. Well, apparently I have to. So let me remove LOD components, and I'm going to remove everything except for the first one. The reason for that is that if you, you know, you can, I'm going to use one model to fracture basically. So I'm using DinoFracture simply because DinoFracture is easy to use and it's also cheap, so everyone can get along. If you are using Rayfire, for example, which is costs more but capable of so much more, I'd recommend using that instead. So I'm just going to pick a standard, or I think that was concrete. I know this doesn't really look all that concrete, but that's fine. So grass, no, it was standard apparently. So yeah, standard fracture piece, inside material. So let's actually create a new material here. I'm going to duplicate the gray, do inside, and the color picker, let's pick this color, and it's not really all that different actually, but yeah, I mean that's okay. So we'll pick that color. This will be the inside. So let's get back to our model here. So we'll use inside for the inside material, and yeah, you know, it's not the best match actually, but honestly really is not the best match. I think because metallic etc. is turned off. So let's have a look, and it's a lot closer already. That's good enough. I'm fine with that. So there we go. I'm going to keep this simple in order to save performance. That's why I'm also not doing this real time. You know, it's a lot more efficient performance wise. So we'll do it like that. So let's create the fractures. So here it asks clean folder and save, save no clear, don't save. I'm going to do clear folder and save. And I always create a new folder for every single one of them. So fractures, if you don't have that folder, it's because I manually made it. And then just barrier sci-fi, because it's kind of sci-fi. And there we go. So now we have our new barrier, and I'm going to disable this one. So as you can see, this new one looks exactly the same. No difference, but they're all separate separate pieces basically. So it might look the same, but it's basically just a completely fractured piece. So that's why we're doing this. I like destroyables in games, and it's just so easy to do with these assets, like either Rayfire or DinoFracture. Just makes it so incredibly easy. What I'm going to do here, in order to save some time, and considering we are using the asset anyway, I'm going to go to Templates, Game Prefabs, and I'm going to grab breakable shooter, melee. I think we have both. There we go. I'm going to hit play once. I'm not really sure why that igniter always appears otherwise. It's actually cool to see our character walk as well. Yeah, looks good. Cool. So let's turn that back off again. Now they're all normal. I'm not really sure what's up with that really, but so what we're going to do is I'll unpack this one. I know I won't be using it per se, but what I want to do, yeah, let's keep it like that, is I want to copy over all of the conditions. So I'll just use well, gun and sword. I'm okay with that. I don't need the melee. Can't break something like this with melee. That's just with your fist. I mean, that would be ridiculous. So no, that's wrong. So let's copy those over inside here. So we have the same conditions, all of them. They're all fine. We need to change the actions, obviously, as we now have just one complete thing, which makes it so much easier. And yeah, when it comes to the everything else, we just need to add some triggers. So I can remove this one, shooter melee. We no longer need it. And here we go. So let's add stats to this one. We can just use the normal stats, that's completely fine. And then trigger, and we'll do a on receive shot. Any, doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, we do need to click this twice, and I just once, but that's okay. Then we can remove them, and we just need to drag in the gun conditions. And then we'll do another trigger, melee on receive attack. Press this again, and we'll just drag in the sword straight away, and we can just remove these conditions. So yeah, there we have it. Now I want to show one thing, is that every piece here has a rigid body as well, which is really cool actually. So every piece has its own rigid body, automatically assigned, which is really nice. So this will not have a rigid body, doesn't make any sense to me. What we're going to do next is, if the attribute value of this object is less than 0, then we'll disable this one and we'll enable this one. And we can remove all of the others. Now we do need to, because in this case the collider is placed differently, we are going to use the enable component piece here. I'm going to drag in our parent, and we're going to select mesh collider, and we'll turn that off. Now that's a small thing we need to do, but we need to make sure that this mesh collider is no longer active. And yeah, that's it for the gun conditions. And let's do that as well. So we have our global variables, gun damage, that's what the damage comes from. So let's do the same with sword here. So again, just drag this one in. Let's drag this one in straight away as well. And we'll disable this, enable this, and let's copy over that last action. And we're done. That's literally all we have to do. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We have our new object, so I'm going to create a prefab out of this, and we'll keep it inside of the actual object. So I think it was Sci-Fi base prefabs, and we'll drag it in here. You can obviously, put it wherever you want. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So here we go. Here we have our breakable, and let's turn on ProGrids here for a moment. The alignment is definitely not perfect. Yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely not. So we'll have to adjust the height. Okay, there we go. So Control Z a couple of times, and we'll just use it for the X and Z axis. There we go. So yeah, we can place one here. A bit random, but think games like I don't know, Gears of War, whatever. You have a lot of these objects just always everywhere, because you need some cover. I don't know, it's a bit random, but it's kind of the idea. Solid breakable. And maybe I should have used the climb over one. I didn't really think of that. But that's okay. It's just the idea. We'll just think about the placement of the enemies. So there we go, a couple of ones just to show how it all works. So what we're going to do next is try to find something to hide it. Now, usually in games like where you have like hide volumes like this, like Assassin's Creed for example, they're always just bushes, vegetation. Unless you're going to create some post-apocalyptic look here, it's just not gonna fit, like not at all. So something else we could do, it's a bit strange maybe, but we can use particle effects for steam, and I think this one will do the trick, especially considering it's here. There we go. I'm going to do something stupid. I have no idea if this actually works. It actually does work. It definitely looks a bit off. Yeah, maybe not the best idea. So yeah, I don't think that was the best idea to do. Anyway, we'll place a couple. So let's do it like this. We'll place a couple, and basically this steam will hide the player. So we need to place a couple, otherwise it it doesn't look that great. I'm not saying this is the best steam effect, but let's turn them all on. But these are all included. They're free basically, so they're in the template package. They're free Unity particle effects, and at least they work, and you don't have to pay for them. But if you have something better, obviously I'd recommend using that instead. But for free particles, these are actually pretty cool. As you can see, doesn't look that bad. Should put it down a bit. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Anyway, we'll keep it simple. And what I'm going to do with this basically is I'm going to create a height volume out of this. So that's why I'm turning on effects just for the moment. So we actually know where we're going with this. There we go. Let's make this smaller. Yeah, that's about fine. It's not really big, but it doesn't really have to be all that big. You know, it's a quick way for the player to hide basically, which is the idea here. So he can hide in this volume. Now we don't need to do anything with the actual Steam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack this volume. Where is the Steam? So looks pretty cool. My height volume is a bit off as well. Should be more like this, I think. Yeah, that seems slightly better. Cool. So this will be the height volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in this Steam here in the height volume. I'm not really sure why the scaling changed of these objects. So there we go. So Steam effects are inside. It looks nice, it looks pretty. And we can turn off our mesh renderer. I'm just going to hit play mode for a bit so we actually have an impression what it looks like when it's all active and working. I'll switch to scene mode obviously, and as you can see, you know, this is nice. You know, it fits at least in an environment like this without just dropping in vegetation without any sense. You know, not necessarily the I'm getting shot at. Not necessarily the best effect out there, but it works and it's a cool one. So we can use that as a height. I'm already getting shot at by everyone. Can use this as a height volume, and yeah, pretty cool. I'll turn this on for now, and then later when we go into the mode, we'll turn them all off. So then we can just duplicate a couple of these and drag them all over the place. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the guns. Now the important part here is when it comes to, let's go to shared shooter folder, and we have this revolver, and it's using the default model. So I didn't change the model for the template package. And we need something new here, obviously. So military pack, we'll go to weapons pack, prefab. And yeah, we can use this one. We could use, I don't like that one. That's horrible. Okay, the first one is nice. This one actually looks pretty cool. It's a bit much, but you know, I mean, it fits, but I do want something else than a revolver for once, but it's actually a nice model. Fits a lot better. I'm not really sure what the whole sleeve thing is about. Okay. I'm not gonna ask either. So yeah, we'll just keep the first one. Now the important thing here when it comes to the alignment of the model is that not 90 degrees, there we go, is that you align the muzzle basically. That's the thing that really needs to be aligned. So the easiest thing to do that, because the default model is aligned, is turn off this gizmos again and just basically kind of match the holes. And yeah, let's turn this off. And yeah, I'm not going to say this is going to be perfect right out of the bat, but as you can see, it's a decent-ish alignment. and it looks good, and as long as the muzzle is aligned. So for now, I'll just turn this off. I'm not going to delete it. And we're good. You know, we have a different gun model. Yay. Next up, another one we are using, we will use is the sniper. Actually, so let's look up sniper. There we go, sniper weapon, and this is the prefab. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to use a melee weapon. Sorry about that. So let's go back to my folder. Where am I? RVR Gaming, there we go. And we'll do shared, the melee folder. We'll just pick the default sword here, sword weapon, which is the default game creator model, and we'll replace that with that axe, which is a bit odd, but you know, it's fine. I want some melee in there as well, it's just fun. So, military pack, and we have the weapons, prefabs. The knife doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm pretty sure that was an axe, yeah. The axe looked pretty cool. Wow, that's actually pretty small. I mean, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be big. It's fine that it's small, I guess. I'm still going to make it slightly bigger. It's really, really, really small. I don't know why I had the impression it was a bit bigger when I checked the scene. Okay, so that might be a bit much. There we go, that's at least better. The handle will match just fine, as you can see, so there's no problem there. There we go. But yeah, the hitbox will be really, really different. So as you can see right now, we have a box. You have a couple of options. So you have box, sphere, segment. Segment literally would be for a blade, but something like this, we want to use a box. It's a lot more accurate anyway. It needs to be a lot smaller. So 0. I don't know, 3. Yeah, 3. I think that's about right. It's a really small hitbox. It's a lot smaller than I expected it to be. But that's okay. Fine, and yeah, I think 0.3 as well. So, okay, that's, I mean, I guess that will be interesting. We'll have to have a look at what it looks like. But yeah, that's a lot smaller. Cool, so we'll test it out. So we have that weapon set up as well. So we'll have a look at what it actually, how it plays. For now, I'm just going to turn off all of these characters because there's no longer any obstacles, so they'll just shoot me on sight and that's it. We need to check alignment for the weapons here, both shooter and melee, because we need to make sure it actually looks good in the hand. And we actually do need user interfaces now. So let's turn that back on. There we go. So let's pick the first one. And it's actually not that bad. Yeah, the blocking needs just, I mean, that just needs a different animation. It's really simple. Just doesn't fit. Yeah, it needs to be a tiny bit lower, but I actually think it works pretty well. So not bad, not bad. Okay, so let's pick our gun here. And I don't know why, but I get the impression it's going to be aligned just fine. The alignment is actually good. The animations just have a different effect on the model. And we have this strange effect as well. So as you can see right now, his jaw is open. So his mouth by default is open. And if we exit play mode, we don't actually have that. So when we exit play mode, his jaw is not completely closed, but close as. So there's a couple of things we can do for that. Yeah, I'm not going to do too much with the weapons actually, I'm pretty okay with that. So we can go to the mesh avatar. Oh, sorry about that. Configure, save. And we need to change the jaw rotation. So here we have our avatar, and let's select head here and go to the jaw. And here below we have some rotations. Now if I change this rotation, I expected a bit more. Oh, there we go. So as you can see, the Z value changes. So what we need to do is we need to rotate it a bit up, which looks a bit strange right now in the avatar. But now if I save it, apply, done. In the editor view, nothing will change. It will look exactly the same because it's not actually affected. But then when we go into play mode, you'll see a difference. And maybe what I did was not enough. Maybe it had to be a bit more drastic than what I did just now. But let me hit pause here for a moment. And let's go to our guy here. And as you can see, it's better. It's just not good enough. So we'll make one more change. But yeah, that's basically what you need to do. There are other solutions. So for example, you could theoretically, oh, I keep doing that. Theoretically remove the jawbone. I wouldn't do it. The problem with that is that if you ever want to do cutscenes with lip sync or something like that, yeah, you can't anymore. So just, I'd recommend doing something like this. It's a quick, easy solution, and it basically solves it. And there we go. So let's hit play once more. And even if it's not going to be perfect, I'm not going to adjust it again. You know how to do it now. So where's our guy? And yeah, still not perfect, but I mean, it's close enough. I'm okay with this. So if you use Infinity PBR models, DAS 3D models, you'll be familiar with this strange thing. Same with the rest of the body. His hands not being exactly close together. Arms being slightly different. Legs being slightly differently rotated. Those are things you can all adjust in the avatar. I would definitely recommend doing that as well. But you need time to fine-tune that basically. And that's just, depending on the models. That's why it's nice if you use models all from the same creator. So if you'd, go for a military look and want to use all of these models, you'll just have to make the same adjustments, which helps. If you use Infinity PBR models alongside these, the adjustments will be completely different. If you add some DAS models, they'll be different again. But they'll all be the same type of bones you'll need to adjust anyway. So cool, we have that. So let's actually start placing things a bit. So let's start moving these. So let's do the first one first. Let's drag him, I don't know, here somewhere. Okay, I am definitely going to reduce the range a bit. No, not field of view, range, sorry about that. Simply because, yeah, it's, you know what, it's actually fine. Just stay out of sight and that's it. Cool, that's one. We'll add another one. Because, yeah, they investigate anyway, so it's not like they'll start shooting on sight. Which is something I'm quite happy with. With the way I did the behavior. There we go. Maybe I should have tested these things before actually trying them. Let's actually test one. Breakable. Does it actually break? There we go. Okay, I'm just going to use the gun. It's going to be faster. And there we go. They break. Maybe, you know, rigid body of 1 is a bit exaggerated, but it breaks. It looks cool. And there they are going for their patrol. Yeah, so next things up. Okay, these work. That's good. Let's actually add their patrol area. And I know their view of 90 is a bit short-sighted. It just wanted to highlight, you know, stealth a bit more. I think the default sight is around 1. There we go. So first marker. I'm not really sure what I'm saying anymore. So anyway, first marker. Let's lower these a tiny bit. First. Second is wrongly placed. We'll place it here. Just somewhere completely different. Somewhere here. The second one is going to be here. Third one is going to be here. Fourth one. Here, and the sixth one, sorry. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much. It's a bit of a weird spot, but I'm okay with that. Going to be here. CI data matters anyway. So yeah, as you can see, we have a couple of ones. You know what? I'm actually going to move that here so we can have some more stealth type of approaches. There we go. And these characters will actually just be using the same ones. I'm actually not even going to use the other ones. It's fine. I'll just duplicate you know, the same model. They'll be using the same patrol area, which I think is cool. But they'll go to the markers that are actually close to them. So not all the same ones. So they'll randomly patrol this this area. Now, in order to make sure all of this actually works, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just select all the road stuff. There we go. Navigation, so let's go to AI navigation, which brings up this one. And I'm not going to change any settings, I'll just bake. And yeah, that's well, that's all done. It's not really the nav mesh I hoped it would be or expected it to be. So what I'll do here, we'll give that another go. I'm going to be removing, are these at least cut out? No, they're not. And these objects are. That's annoying. So we'll clear the entire nav mesh. We'll be removing all of these walls. The height volume can go. This one can go, this can go, this can go, this can go. Don't need any of that. Perfect. Let's, before I start nav meshing, let's add a couple of obstacles. Okay, apparently the nav mesh wasn't done, and it's just redone everything. So, okay, cool, I guess. So yeah, this nav mesh looks the way it's supposed to. The nice thing here is you can see the particle effects are not affected, so they can still be used. We have our barriers that are excluded, which obviously is quite important. So yeah, okay, that turned out well-ish. Not perfect, but good enough. Cool, so let's grab our player here, actual player. I'm not really sure he can even walk up like that. So I'm going to place him here. No, I can't even do that because I'm pretty sure there's no way for him to go up. So yeah, we'll just drop him in here. There we go. It's pretty clear. I'm not really, I don't really know what I'm doing. So there we go. We have our guy here. Now, when it comes to post-processing, as I said before, I want to you know, show you what depth of field does as well. So let's have a look at our post-processing, and we're going to add depth of field. There we go. And I'm going to hit play and then pause. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around slowly so we actually have a bit of a view. I'm going to hit pause because they already noticed me. And I'm going to adjust these settings a bit. So the nice thing here is we can, you know, play around a bit. I don't know, 6. And something like this. I don't know. Not really sure. This is definitely not it. I want this to be a tiny bit blurry in the distance, so let's say 70. There we go. So that's all set. We have those values now, and what we can do next is we can actually disable these meshes, because we don't need the meshes. There we go. And let's try this out. Now, as you saw, I was just standing there and he already spotted me. So let's actually try hiding in the fog this time around and, you know, see if it actually works. So we're in a fog volume. And a nice thing you could add, for example, is like an outline shader that enables on when you enter the trigger or something like that, just to show you're actually in the hide volume. It's something that could really help player-wise. Something that games like Assassin's Creed do, for example. But as you can see, no one has spotted me. They're all just walking their route, and that's pretty much it. So clearly hiding pretty well. And yeah, they're just walking around. So as you can see, they went to the same marker, but now they're not even going to the same spots. I think that's definitely one of the cool things here. And you know, he spotted me. He's gonna engage in combat, of course. Oh, let me try to kill him first. Oh, that was a bit too close. I think there's actually an object blocking here. Yeah, there's definitely something blocking him. So that can sometimes be the problem with the nav mesh if you don't nav mesh it properly. So definitely spend a bit more time with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So as you can see, it's really simple and easy to actually start, you know, creating something. Yes, when it comes to the models, you'll need to adjust something because as you can see, you know, the legs are a bit off. The depth of field is too much as well. I exaggerated here, but as you can see, it looks really pretty. It looks nice. Yeah, depth of field is definitely wrong. But that's okay. So it's really that easy to have a good looking game. Now, if you want to go even further with post-processing, there's a lot of different assets out there like Beautify and SC post-processing, something like that. And they'll allow you to use LUTs as well, which completely changes the colors, the contrast, the shadows, which is really nice. I actually really like using those. It's a huge time saver. Yeah, I overreacted with the depth of field. It's a huge time saver and it completely gives a new fresh look. So you can have a look like in, you know, Gears of War, for example, where it's all grimy and darkish, but a bit of a sepia tone, and something completely stylized as well if you want. So that's definitely something. Yeah, there's definitely a couple of objects here that are blocking. So not surprising he got stuck. I'm getting stuck behind something invisible as well now. So yeah, definitely do things like fine tune the map, as you can see, because yeah, it can block AI, it can block the player. But that's how easy it is to actually get started and actually start creating something with a new look. So hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.